Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is going on? Hey, this is a happy hangover today. I am not going to deny it. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis, and this is the Steelers Hangover from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Your nonstop shop, your one-stop shop, just the place to go for Pittsburgh Steelers news. And there's going to be plenty of it this week, and there's plenty of it right now just because the Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland and are ahead of them in the standings. And if you look at the conference standings, the Pittsburgh Steelers are number 6 out of 7. So, woohoo! Celebrating along with me today is Shannon White and Tony Defeo from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Shannon, how are you this evening?
I'm awesome. Ready to go.
All right.
Ask me something, anything. I'm ready.
Okay, you can't say it better than that. Tonester, what's going on, man?
I feel pretty good. It's what a great win. What a great win for the Steelers organization.
Yeah, it is a great win, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about why this was a great win and how big of a win it actually is, because there's some people that could go ahead and break it apart. There's a lot to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and save you guys. We are going to talk about the fake field goal. We'll do that a little bit later on in the call, and we'll go at different angles at this. So that's no problem. But the big thing, there's also going to be trade deadline talk. The trade deadline's tomorrow. We're going to talk about that as well. We've got nothing but news and things to discuss for the Steelers, but it is a great day. And the reason my partners here are happy and a lot of people are thrilled and elated in the live chat, it's simple. Nobody thought that the Steelers could go ahead and beat this team. Yes, there are a lot of injuries on the Cleveland Browns. Yes, they are the number 2 ranked offense in the league when it comes to rushing. They are the number 2 defense in the league when it comes to rushing. So when it comes to both sides of the ball, when it's on the ground, the Browns are tough. So we're going to talk about all of that. But the title tonight is how big is this as a win? Because there's a lot of naysayers saying, hey, okay, you beat up Browns team. Well, the Browns are going to say you beat up Browns team. But, the Steelers are missing some guys as well. So let me start first with Tony. How big of a win is this for the Pittsburgh Steelers in your mind?
Oh, I mean, it's huge. I mean, the math alone makes it a big win. If you lose yesterday's game, you're down game and a half out of third place. I mean, you're so you set yourself up nice. We talked about this last week. You set yourself up nicely for a great run. I mean, it's not set in stone, of course, but you've given yourself a great opportunity to be 6-3 after 9 games. And if you're 6-3 after 9 games, then you have 8 left, obviously, and you have 4 games in the division. So you control your own fate simply by winning yesterday's game, I think. So it was huge, and I was it's probably my favorite victory they've had in quite a while.
Shannon, do you agree with Tony that this is one of your favorite victories as well?
It was huge. It was so enjoyable. They did everything I thought they would struggle to do, which mainly stopped the run. The guys played excellent. The defensive line, Wormley, Loudermilk, Mondo, they all stood up when they needed to, and they everybody's saying the Browns are injured. Mayfield's playing with a hurt shoulder. But Ben's hurt. Ben's old. They don't have their second running back in Hunt, but Chubb is awesome. I mean, he's one of the best in the league, and they have the best running game in the NFL as far as I know, according per yards per game and per carry average. That is a great offensive line, and the Steelers shut that running game down for all intents and purposes. It was a huge game for the division. It was a huge game for the confidence of the team moving forward. It was a huge game because it might be Ben's last game in Cleveland. The whole, Garrett comes out in his Grim Reaper outfit and Mayfield celebrated getting knocked down out of bounds like he just won the Super Bowl, come running out there fired up. And I think the only thing he did was fire the defense up for the Steelers. So it was a huge win, and I was proud of them guys, and I'll say it. I'm proud of the team and the way they played yesterday.
All right. I just want to address one thing that you said. Yes, it could be Ben's last game, but come on. It's not. Ben is not going anywhere until Ben has to be on his deathbed to leave, because I could see him just like, yeah, I'm gonna give it another shot, and the Steelers are gonna have to say, all right, Ben, you're leaving.
Hey, it might be he might get another crack before next year in the playoffs.
Yeah, and
yeah.
So Wes made a comment. Imagine if this team was healthy for the playoffs against the Browns, and they were not healthy. And so, the Browns are a good team. But did the Steelers beat a good Browns team yesterday because of the injuries? To my account, a lot of those guys were out there. So my question to you, and I'm going to start off with Tony here, is that injury report. Do you think that there was some gamesmanship in the injury report saying that all these guys are hurt, then all of a sudden they're playing?
Oh, there's always gamesmanship with stuff like that, especially in the AFC North. So that didn't surprise me. As far as the injuries, as Shannon illustrated, they were pretty much fully healthy on offense, with the exception of Hunt. They had Baker Mayfield was injured, and some people said they should have put in Case Keenum, but I think Mayfield looked okay and healthy. So there were some injuries with the secondary. I know that, but I think it was they beat a good team yesterday.
Shannon White, is this a statement win?
Yes, most of the Browns' injuries was the secondary, as Tony mentioned, which normally in the past the Steelers could have really took advantage of that. They're not in a position right now with Ben and the receiving crew that they have at the moment to fully take advantage of the Browns' injury and depleted secondary. They actually beat them in the trenches. They beat them by that was the best offensive line has looked, pounding the ball up the middle, especially, and then taking advantage of Garrett's over aggressiveness. Teams do that to TJ at times, and the Steelers kind of returned the favor yesterday. But the way the inside of that line played, that caused the running game to be successful, and everything played off that. So, yes, it was definitely a statement win. That's what I'm so excited about, is because the young guys that we've been talking about all along saying that this season depends on them. They are starting to turn it around, turn it on, and that was their best performance yesterday.
Now, if you score only 15 points in a game, but you hold the other team to 10, a potent offense, that could still be a statement game. Is that correct, Tony?
Yeah, and I think the defense really, all the talk with Ben, and of course, and rightfully so, and Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth and the offensive line, the defense was the reason why they won that game. The defense, as Shannon said, they shut down the running game. They came up with big plays at the end. The fumble with Jarvis Landry, Schobert caused that fumble. So the defense held strong. Look at the what's the 4th and 1? They decided to punt. I think at one point in the game, they had no confidence they could go up against the Steelers. They can get a yard against the Steelers defense. So, you have to give the defense credit for how well they played against the Browns. Now, and if the defense doesn't play that well, we're not talking about Najee Harris's great game and Muth's great catch and Ben the plays he made at the end. We're talking about, here we go again, only 15 points. So it was a statement performance by that defense, shutting down that potent offense.
So I want to talk about that defense for a second, and I want to talk about one guy in particular. I made a bold statement early on in the season, when Tyson Alualu went down. I made a bold statement that Chris Wormley could be the guy, and he could be an unsung hero for this team. Does it look like he's starting to be that guy on that defensive line that's helping out Cam, and you're not worried about him? You don't even think that he's a backup anymore? You feel like he is an established starter and he's a major cog in that defense, Shannon?
Thankfully, yes. I was really concerned when the Seahawks attacked him. But yesterday, Cam Hayward said it in his post-game interview. What was the difference? He said everybody maintained their gap control, their gap responsibilities, and Wormley did that excellent. Bugs just committed to tight blockers, didn't try to over pursue or penetrate. Loudermilk's been the second best run defender on the line for a few games now. All them guys stood up, and you was right about Wormley because he still looks small to me for a normal Steelers defensive end. But yesterday he really held the point and did an excellent job. So yeah, Wormley has been invaluable with no to it.
Tony, Wes brings up this. OBJ had like 4 drop passes. Jarvis dropped 3 that should have easily been caught. Now, somebody on the preview in the live chat, came out and said that, well, you know what? They drop passes, so they gave you the game. Do you feel that when teams drop passes, that's them making a mistake and the Steelers didn't earn it? I'm the kind of person that feels like the defense forces drop passes with the pass rush and with hearing footsteps from the secondary. Could you elaborate on that? Do you feel like I'm correct there?
Well, I mean, look at last year with the Steelers, with all the drop passes that they had, especially late in the year, because all the passes were right around the line of scrimmage, and they had 3 or 4 defenders around them, and they were hearing footsteps, I think. So, sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you benefit from a receiver making a mistake, but that happens in every game. I don't think you could walk away from yesterday's game, even with the drop passes by Landry and OBJ, and say, well, the defense played terrible. The defense played great, even with the drops. The drops are a part of football. I mean, that's why they keep a stat, and a lot of people look to that stat constantly, and a lot of people ridicule that stat, or ridicule players who are bad in that department. So yeah, they had some drops, but the Steelers drop passes too, and nobody ever they still give credit to the opposing defense.
Now I'm going to bring up Owen David here, the proprietor of Britsburg from across the pond. Bad. The only reason they dropped the passes was Landry and OBJ scared of our secondary lighting them up. Yeah, that backs up exactly what you just said, Tony. So I do appreciate that. So here's the thing. So this game, I feel great about this game for a number of reasons. We talked about Myles Garrett coming in and with the cape, he has the graveyard at home. Now he has the cape with all the quarterbacks. Look, I don't have a problem with it. I do not have a problem with that. But it made me feel like this. And, I grew up a Penn State fan. I grew up a Pitt fan as well. But when Penn State gets off the plane in Tempe, Arizona, wearing suits, and the Miami Hurricanes get off the plane wearing Army fatigues, there's a different kind of attitude there. One team's there for business, one team's there for show. And so to me, this was a showcase between TJ Watt and Myles Garrett for Defensive Player of the Year. TJ Watt showed up and showed off with his play and not with his wardrobe. Myles Garrett had a good game. But the thing with Myles Garrett, he did not expose Dan Moore Jr. Now, Dan Moore Jr., did he have a great game? Absolutely not. He did not have a great game. Did he have a good enough game to keep Ben clean enough? Did Ben help his young left tackle? Yes, absolutely, the whole way. But the question is, and the reason I'm bringing this up, that offensive line did not seem scared of Myles Garrett and a very tough Cleveland defense. Have they just stepped up for one game, or are they really coming together under Adrian Clem?
No, definitely coming together. They're adopting, they're buying into what he's selling, and they chipped some to help Moore a little bit. Moore was getting beat instantly. But Garrett's a freak. He is an absolute athletic freak. And nobody just takes him one-on-one. And Moore, he still needs the upper body development and other things like we've talked about. And he didn't have anything for Garrett on that initial move. So I think the PFF give Moore a 0 passing grade for pass blocking yesterday. That's only because the initial move, Garrett beat him every time. But Moore would recover enough to keep Ben upright, and then Ben was getting rid of the ball so fast. He done good enough, and that's what he's been doing all year. He struggled, but he keeps fighting. And so I think that was a huge victory for him, that he went up against Garrett and didn't give up a 4 or 5 sack game. And Ben definitely helped him by getting that ball out and changing on the touchdown pass to Freiermuth. Ben moved Harris to that side. And the reason that Ben had time to throw the pass on 4th down to Freiermuth is because Harris picked up Garrett. So that's when your veteran quarterback can help a young left tackle also.
Tony, do you stick with Dan Moore Jr. the whole way now because he survived Myles Garrett?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the only way you learn is just get in there. In my opinion, you get in there each and every week and you mix it up. And who better to learn from than one of the best pass rushers in the NFL? As Shannon said, he's a freak. I mean, the guy just is, he's on pace for a record number of sacks this year. So yeah, I mean, he definitely had a learning experience on Sunday. And if he's the kind of player that wants to get better and wants to improve his craft, then he's going to learn from his struggles on Sunday. And as you said, his struggles were there, but they weren't catastrophic. And Ben, for the most part, was clean on Sunday. So you keep him in there, and I love this whole line right now. Especially I love Kendrick Green and his chipping. And you see it every game, the way he's mixing it up with the other team. They're not afraid. They're not afraid of their opponents. They're not afraid of any front seven. They're growing together, and you're seeing it more and more each week. They're getting better and better each and every week. And I mean, yesterday the way they blocked for the run was just, I think, really encouraging.
You know what? Here's the big question, and I'm going to recycle a question from the post-game show with Jeff, Dave, and myself yesterday, and it's this. What do you do with Zach Banner? Do you keep him on the bench until something falters, or do you risk messing with the chemistry?
I say, well, I mean, Banner, he can only play, well, both Moore and Banner can only play on the left or the right and the left respectively. So, if you're going to activate Banner, he almost has to start, right? If you put him in there, he almost has to start on the right side, and then Shooks would either be inactive or the swing tackle. Right now, I mean, I know Okorafor, he's having his problems. He had a couple of key penalties on Sunday, but I'd say just leave it as is for now, and see if they can continue to improve as a 5-player unit. Shannon,
are you tinkering with this line?
Wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. They are finally developing chemistry. They are finally learning trust into playing together with each other. There's no reason Banner, unless he's going to pull a Ingram or an AB, or I'm not getting to play, I want out of here, and force his way out of town. Banner has not ever proven anything. He's only started one game really in the NFL, and he didn't finish that one. He's unproven. The guys that have been playing have played 7 games now, and there's no reason to mess with the chemistry. Banner can be your backup right tackle. I would have 4 tackles myself, because injuries happen at that position especially. But Banner can be active, but he does no business replacing Chooks at the moment, because Chooks has actually improved the last 3 weeks, as has the rest of the line.
All right, I'm going to shock both of you guys, and I think I shocked those guys yesterday on the show. I agree with both of you. I'm not a Chooks fan. Everybody knows that I'm not a Chooks fan. I like the man. It's the player that scares me, and I'd love to see Banner in there, but right now, I'm not touching it either. So with that being said, that is a big thing for Chooks. And here's the thing about Chooks. He is hearing the hate. He had a great tweet yesterday. It's like, hey, keep on hating. I'm just going to keep on playing. Something like that. And that's fun. And I get it. I definitely get it. I mean, I root for the guy, but right now there's no reason to touch him. Now, if there's a catastrophic game, yeah, you have that insurance policy in Banner, and that's kind of the way that it has to be at this point. I'm sure Mike Tomlin is going to be asked about that tomorrow. I'm sure Mike Tomlin is going to continue to be asked about something else, and that's the fake. And that's something we're going to talk about when we come back right after this on the Steelers Hangover. Stick around. We will be back right after this. If you're checking us out on any of your platforms where you download your favorite podcast, you know what we want you to do? It's simple. Just go on over to number 2. It's as simple as that. We will be back right after this on BTSC. That's BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Welcome back to BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Alongside me is Shannon White and Tony Defeo. Oh, wow. It's a victory Monday. It feels so good. Beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Nope. If you're the Cleveland Browns, you didn't do it. So you're not feeling good in Cleveland. But for the Steeler fans, beating the Cleveland Browns and holding them only to 10 points, that is absolutely fantastic. So there's a lot of things to talk about in this game. There is a lot of things to talk about going on this week, and it's the trading deadline as well. And I want to get to that because I think a play of one player made another player very expendable yesterday, and we're going to talk about that as well. But first, the story of the game. Yes, the Steelers won, and the big but is the fake field goal. I am going to stand back because I've already said what I have to say. And then yesterday on the trading deadline, on the not the trade, we don't have a trading deadline show. I'm sorry, on the Steelers post-game show. So I'm going to stick back. And guys, what was your knee-jerk reaction and what do you feel now about that? Tony?
I know this might make people angry or shocked or whatever, but I didn't have a problem with the call. I mean, I think he was being aggressive. They kind of sputtered 2 or 3 times when it looked like they had great scoring chances. You have the ball in the second half. Maybe you surprise them, score a touchdown there. You come out in the second half. You have momentum after that, and you score more points, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown. Next thing you know, you're up by 2 scores. I never problem with it. I mean, the execution wasn't great, and Boswell got hurt, and he was knocked out of the game. And I'm sure they didn't anticipate him having to hold on to the ball for as long as he did. And it probably should have been roughing the passer on that play. I mean, clearly it was roughing the passer. So I didn't really have a problem with it. I just maybe I'm going by the successful play that they ran 3 years ago with Boswell to Big Al. So, I mean, it's worked in the past. It's one of those plays. If it doesn't work, and it's cliche to say, if it doesn't work, well, it was a bad play. If it does work, what a great call. So, I mean, it knocked their kicker out, but other than that, it didn't really. I didn't have a problem with the call.
Shannon, your thoughts?
I hated it.
Okay.
On our Slack channel, and we was having a discussion right after it happened. Dave Schofield's like, well, it's because it didn't work. For me, it was the timing. And the reason I feel that way is they sent 2 receivers, both tight ends, out into the route. And there was 5 defenders all over them. It was not a surprise to anybody. Coming off the bye week is when you're going to try, usually, to do a trick play. If Boswell would have threw the ball instantly to Freiermuth, he might have been able to catch it and drive. But you're asking your place kicker to throw to a guy And like I said, there was 5 defenders back there, so it didn't surprise anybody. And that was my problem with it, was basically the timing. Then Boswell should have known, throw that ball away. He is tiny. He is a very little kicker. And when he got hit, he got blew up. He went 5 yards, fly back, head bounces off the ground. I said, he's done. I said, now what are they going to do? I don't see a backup plan. They didn't really have a backup plan. If Boswell went down, they were shocked. They didn't even know who the holder was going to be. And it can't be Ben. He has trouble getting up off his knees. So they had Cam Sutton out there at halftime practicing.
Yeah.
So here's my thought.
The timing is what's most important. And I thought it was terrible timing.
All right. So I liked the gutsiness of the play. I have no problem with the play. I mean, it's easy for me to say that if it works, that it's a great call. And we've seen that. One of the things that I'm basing my comments off of is we always talk about like the Ravens and the Browns and like the other teams that try that stuff against the Steelers. And we're like, why can't the Steelers be aggressive like that too? Because the Steelers aren't going to try that play. So I like the fact that they tried it. Now, Shannon, I'm going to agree with you with the fact there should be a backup plan. I was in the stands in 2008 when there was not a backup plan at long snapper. Greg Warren goes down. Yeah. I was at that game. And James Harrison.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a disaster. Oh, so you would think that they would have something in place for that. That's probably my biggest problem with the whole play. Now, if you listen to the post-game show yesterday, you've heard my thoughts on this, and you probably completely disagree with me, and that's fine because that's what this show is all about. I actually think that by going for that and losing Boswell, which you never want to happen because I'm glad it's just a concussion.
Right.
Because it could have been, he could be gone for the year. Concussions are bad things, and I understand that. But all I'm saying is, do you think it's a possibility that they won because of that bad call?
Well, I mean, it caused them to be more aggressive on offense and more innovative, I think, in the second half. They had to be because they had to go for it on 4th and short, and they had to go for it for 2. So I think it caused them to be more aggressive in the second half too. So I think it probably inspired them a little bit more. I certainly inspired TJ Watt. He seemed to really up his game after that non-call on Boswell.
Shannon, so my thought here is it's kind of like in the very first episode of MASH, at the very end of it, and I've seen the pilot episode a million times, they come out and they say, we screwed up in reverse, which means that they did all this stuff wrong and they impressed the general because of their skills in the operating room. And they were all ready to be court-martialed for throwing a party. And so the reason I bring that up, for me, I think that instead of kicking a field goal to tie that game, they had no choice because they can't bring out Presley Harvin III for that. They had to go for it, and it's quite a risk to go for it on 4th down. And they do it, and they succeed, and that changes the game entirely. Because if this is a 10-10 game or a 10-12 game or whatever it would be at that point, then you are looking at this point of them very easily, the Cleveland Browns, just trying to get into field goal range. So I feel that they screwed up in reverse, and it helped them win that game by that call that went completely wrong.
In me, they won in spite of, not because of. It's like, I know people who will say, well, I've made tons of mistakes all through my life, but I wouldn't change a thing because it's made me who I am today. It doesn't change the fact that, that you made some really stupid mistakes. You had the good fortune or was blessed to maybe live through it or maybe prosper afterwards. I just, like I said, due to the timing, we talked, you mentioned the Ravens and the Browns and Bengals teams that we play who do try the trick plays far more frequently than the Steelers. In the past, it made more sense because we had an offense capable of overcoming mistakes. Right now, the offense can't overcome a 10-yard holding penalty. They have to play pretty close to a perfect game right now. So I think they were establishing their physicality and their ability to move the ball at that point. I would have took the points and then relied on the defense to continue playing like they were. I didn't feel like it was the right time, or there wasn't a sense of surprise, as I said, because coming off the bye. That was my main problem with it.
Well, I mean, we can talk till we're blue in the face about this. I'm glad we disagree on this, Shannon. I'm glad that not everybody is happy with the call, and that's what this is all about. And we are going to continue to have discussions on this. Tony, do you have a comment on this?
I just have a question. It's kind of unrelated, but it's related. Situations like this, and I've been trying to figure this out for years, and I've gotten answers, but I don't know if I buy them necessarily. Why is it always the punter that holds on field goals and extra points, and why isn't it the backup quarterback? I mean, it would think like if you wanted to run a fake, or if you had something happen where you had a fumbled snap or something, you'd want the ball in an expert's hands rather than a punter or a kicker. Yeah, so I guess it's a kind of an unrelated question. Maybe you guys can answer. Maybe the live chat. Why is it every kicker now, or every team now, it's the punter that holds?
Now I could go ahead and take a stab at it, and I thought I heard something recently about this, because the hands are so crucial to your quarterback. If you make an errant hold, and you're more likely to get a finger or a thumb just kicked and stoved, and we can't have that with a backup quarterback. So I think that's probably the reason, because it used to be that there were a lot of backup quarterbacks. I remember Mike Tomczak, if I'm not mistaken, was a holder for the Steelers, and we've seen Tommy Maddox might have done it a little bit here as well.
He did it when he was the starter. I think he remained the holder his last year, his full year as a starter, I think in 2002.
So that's interesting to me. So yeah, that's a possibility. Shannon, I'll get to you in a second. So I just think it's the fact that you can't afford to have those guys beat up. If you have a punter and they have something wrong with their hands, they can still field it and kick it away a lot better than you're risking so much less with a punter. And not just that, but the fact that when you're practicing and you have a lot of time together as a punter and a kicker. Shannon.
Well, yeah, you basically just said what I was getting ready to say. I heard a special teams coach. It was an interview, and he was talking, and he had him and his team, might have been the Rams, but this has been a few years back, and that question had come up, and they said because with the limited amount of time they have to work together now, it's not like it used to be. And so they're in the same room, they're in the same, they have a very intimate relationship. And so everybody started teaching the punters to hold. And also, of course, the reason that you said, but the danger to the quarterback, the guy coming around the outside diving to block it could easily go into the quarterback knee, who's squatting, get hurt that way. So those are the reasons, definitely.
And Wes made a mention that you should have had a Haskins or Rudolph in there. I get it, that might telegraph it, but Press, man, he can throw too. We've seen that he has executed a few nice fakes at Georgia Tech. So I mean, he can definitely throw the ball too. And Sherry Richards is saying that right now. That there's been highlights of him doing it as well. So really interesting. There's so much you can continue to talk about this. I want to wrap this part up with talking about Mike Tomlin's reaction to it. Were you satisfied? And I'll start with Shannon with how he came out and addressed it right away in the press conference.
Oh, definitely. That's who Tomlin is. He's a stand-up guy. He's not going to let Danny Smith or anybody else take the blame for that. He has the final decision. It's his call. And, he's not going to apologize for trying to win the game, for being aggressive. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, he's a stand-up guy, and he will take full responsibility. So I thought he did a great job.
Tony?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was typical Mike Tomlin. He's not gonna place blame on anybody but himself. Yeah, I mean, it was his decision. He's responsible for it. He'll be the first to tell you that, and that's basically how we addressed it in the press conference.
Now, if you're a Steeler fan, as we continue to go and talk about this game yesterday, you have got to be very encouraged by the play of somebody when he was drafted in the 5th round in 2019, who was a project. I think the project is now a finished product after what I saw with Zach Gentry yesterday. Shannon, do you feel like Zach Gentry's play could get Eric Ebron traded tomorrow if there's a buyer?
If there's a buyer, I would definitely consider it. Gentry, he definitely was a project where we talked in the offseason where he started out as a quarterback, and I openly questioned would he ever be able to put on the mass and gain the functional strength to play tight end. He's their best blocking tight end now. He has solid hands, and they're using him in that screen game very effectively. He actually held up good in pass protection a couple of times yesterday too. So he's been a godsend. He's been a huge surprise to me. And I actually would rather see Freiermuth and Gentry out there than I would Ebron, because they both give you a complete tight end where Ebron is basically a big wide receiver.
Tony, do you feel that Pat Freiermuth now is the definitive starting number 1 tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I wouldn't say definitive, but I definitely think he might be the best one that they have. I think he's the best, most talented guy that they have now. It all depends on how they feel about Ebron. But I think Freiermuth is going to be something special, and I think he's going to get more and more playing time as the year goes on. He's going to earn more and more trust in with Ben, and I think that touchdown he had yesterday is gonna wow, that's really gonna earn some trust with the veteran quarterback. I wouldn't say definitive just yet, because I think Ben really likes Ebron. I think he feels comfortable with him in the passing game, but it's getting to that point.
So we have some jokes on the live chat about maybe Walmart needs a greeter, but nobody wants Ebron. But I got to bring up Tate Boys here. So Kevin Tate, who has guested on our shows before, and in the off season, his Know It All podcast, he's going to be bringing that to the BTSC in the off season. If that's still going to happen, we would love to have him. Fantastic show. If you do get a chance to check that out on YouTube, Know It Alls. But Kevin Tate says Green Bay needs a tight end. Robert Tonyan went down, and Robert Tonyan is a very good pass-catching tight end. He's not known for blocking ability. I did not think about this, and when Tate put this up, it just sparked me right away. Could you see Eric Ebron with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay? I think they could do a lot of damage with the ability that Ebron still has. Tony?
My question is, people are run. I mean, if he could do damage with Aaron Rodgers, why can't he do damage with Big Ben? I mean, I think that's the thing. I mean, I think he's still a really valuable player for them, and I think he could. I mean, when you have the injuries you have with the receivers, and it seemed to be like they're too deep now because James Washington's really not contributing anything. They might need a mismatch type player like Ebron down the stretch for their passing attack. That's my only concern with training Ebron.
Something, you know what? I very rarely disagree with you, Tony. I can count on one hand, and we've been doing this for 4+ years together. And I kind of disagree with you on that because I feel like each and every week, Ebron has less opportunity to play. In fact, I'm waiting for the week where he doesn't even have a hat. Because how Freiermuth has developed and how Gentry has developed. And Shannon's comments earlier made me feel like the development of Gentry has helped push Eric Ebron aside. So with you missing 3 draft picks already next year, and if you can maybe possibly get a 6th out of this guy, to make up for the one you lost for Joe Schobert, I think you do it at this point, because you have other guys that can contribute at that position as well. So that's what I'm looking at there. Now, Buck Dancer says they do need 3 tight ends. You could always bring a guy back in here. There's always somebody. Kevin Raiders might be available. There's a guy like that you can trust and bring back in, but I don't think it is something that would kill you to get rid of him. You don't want to go trading away a lot of guys, but there's 3 guys on this team that you could possibly trade. Benny Snow Jr. is one of them. I mean, heck, Kalen Ballage is one of them. Any of those running backs you could probably trade. Is there a market for them? Maybe not. Eric Ebron is definitely, I think it's a situation where he would not be missed because of Gentry. And I know I've spoken a lot about that. Then you have the guy that Aditi Kinkawala says is definitely going tomorrow, and it's Melvin Ingram. I would hate to lose Melvin Ingram, but if they can get value out of Melvin Ingram, they're going to do it, because he's not happy and he becomes more of a problem if he remains. And you might have a LeGarrette Blount situation where a guy goes AWOL. A guy causes problems. I think he's a quality guy, so I don't expect him to do something like that, but there's always that possibility. So Shannon, I'm going to start with you on the trade situation. Do you feel that they are going to make trades tomorrow? Because they usually don't. And how many?
That's out of characteristic, as you say, for the Steelers. But I think they've learned a little bit from the past. When you got guys that are not happy and they're openly complaining, they have a groin injury show up in the middle of the week after they've already said they're not happy and want to be traded. Those guys, being a Pittsburgh Steeler is a privilege. If they don't want to be there, then you don't need them. Taco Charlton, I'd like to have Ingram, but Taco Charlton yesterday come in and he created some pressure when he was in there and spelled Watt and Highsmith for so Ingram, if you could get something before I said last week, I said no, but hearing that he could be a potential problem and drama on a team that's this young, and he's a veteran, and he could be more of a distraction than he's worth. So if that's true and he really does want out, I think the Steelers will move him. Now, I've not heard anybody really interested in Ebron or Snell, so I really can't say there, but I do expect Ingram to be moved.
Tony, what does the trade of Von Miller today from the Denver Broncos to the Los Angeles Rams do for the stock of a guy like Melvin Ingram III?
I think it helps it. I mean, obviously, if Von Miller's already traded, there's more teams that are going to need pass rushers, and if he thinks he can be a starter, more power to him. But I just don't get what he thought he was going to get here. I mean, I know it's not really the question, but I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, he came here as the backup. Everybody spent all off season, all the fans, everybody. They need depth at outside linebacker. They need to bring somebody in. They brought him in July, and before last week or before the bye, he had like 62% of the snaps. And obviously that's going to go down with Highsmith and Watt being healthy. But what did he expect to do? And Wes Hickok brought it up, and I mentioned on Friday, he obviously came in here thinking he could beat out Alex Highsmith. That's probably why he signed here, that he could come in here and beat out Alex Highsmith and be a starter. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense that he would be this unhappy, because for a veteran like that to get these many snaps, I think he should be grateful, and I think he's a valuable guy for them. And I obviously, he still believes he could be a starter. So I think, if he feels that strongly and there's a premium out there, I think they could probably get a higher draft pick than I originally thought they could.
Sherry Richards on Facebook says, time to cut bait with both of them. Taco was a first-round talent on his last shot, and Taco did the same thing for the Steelers that I almost called him Alvin Gentry. Please excuse me. Former basketball great. That Zach Gentry did for the team by helping make these guys expendable. Look, we knew when he didn't travel to Cleveland yesterday that they were going to get rid of him. There is a lot more value from other teams because everyone's like, what are you going to trade for these guys? Somebody made the joke about the Walmart greeter, which I think is hilarious. But the thing about it is another team's trash is another team's treasure. And right. I really think somebody is going to love having Eric Ebron on his team. And I can see, I love what Tate said. I really think that Aaron Rodgers would love to have a player like Eric Ebron. Because the thing about it is he is going to be focused on more. Not to go back and trash Tony on his comment earlier, because I respect Tony's comments, but Freiermuth has made it to the point where he is the number one guy. And I really think that Freiermuth is on his way to being a top 10 tight end in this league. Is he going to be Travis Kelce? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's going to be very valuable and he's going to catch a lot of balls over the middle. And more each week as Ben starts to trust him, then you are going to see them making it work. Apparently, there was a conversation with James Harrison and Ben Roethlisberger last week about how you would have loved to have played with this guy when you were here, Debo. And that was what Ben said about Freiermuth, because he catches everything and he is going to be one of the greats. And that's what Ben thinks about him. So that's why I think that could possibly happen tomorrow, because they do have some draft picks to recoup. Now, you don't make trades just to recoup a draft pick, but what you do is if you think that their insurance policies and their minimal contributors the rest of the way, and you have somebody like a Taco and have somebody like a Zach, that's when you go ahead and do it. And I think they're in a good situation because remember, these guys are at the end of their contracts. They're both free agents next year, so it kind of works. Now, Jerry Cherry, who had a great quote earlier saying that Taco only plays on Tuesdays, now he's hungry for tacos. So there you go. So one last thing that I want to talk about before we get going is the news that came out of Tennessee today. Now, a lot of news came out of Tennessee today. And somebody did mention in the live chat that, hey, maybe Benny Snell could go for a 7th round pick to the Tennessee Titans, who lost Derrick Henry for what they're saying 6 to 10 weeks. If that's a possibility, then that means that the Indianapolis Colts get a whole lot more dangerous to their cause. And you might start seeing them drop some games because he is a major number 22 is a major part of their offense. Like number 22 from Alabama is a major part of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And I'm interesting to see how it goes without him. Adrian Peterson is there now, and he signed just a few hours ago. So AP is there, but he's also way up there in age. But it's going to be interesting because that's a decent offensive line in Tennessee as well. But the reason I'm bringing up all of this is we talked last week and we took each game for the remainder of the schedule and did wins and losses. And just like the Seattle game, and you hate to see the Steelers, take advantage of an injury to Russell Wilson, but that just happened the schedule that week. Now the Tennessee game could possibly become a whole lot more winnable in week 15. Your thoughts on that? Tony, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean that's we spend all off season talking about the schedule, and that's our job is to speculate on a schedule and who they could win and who might give them trouble, or who they can defeat, I should say, and who can give them trouble. But you just never know until the season starts, and injuries are such a big factor. And Derrick Henry is such a huge part of what the Titans do. He's their team. He's their identity. He's the face of the franchise. He's the best running back in the NFL, one of the best I've seen probably since Adrian Peterson's heyday. He's just such a phenomenal talent. It's a shame for them to lose a guy like that, but it could change the landscape of the AFC. And certainly the Titans, without him, they're not nearly the contender that they were before. I mean, because they are a great team, and without Derrick Henry, they're just not going to be the same. So it could help the Steelers down the stretch. And if he's not in there, like we saw with Russell Wilson, you have to give them a much better chance of winning that game, even though they did beat them last year with him in there. But without him this year, it definitely would make them give them a much more favorable matchup.
Shannon, it's very interesting because for the third week in a row, we have a new number one in the AFC. It was Buffalo. Then it was not Cleveland, Cincinnati, and now it's Tennessee. And it could be the fourth week in a row. Baltimore could have been in the mix there too, but I don't think they were. I think they were number two. So with that being said, that's 3 weeks in a row, a different number one in the rankings. And last week's number one is now number 5. The Cincinnati Bengals are number 5, and the Steelers are at number 6. Woo. And the Cleveland Browns are all the way down to number 10 or 11. It just depends on what happens tonight with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs beat the Browns, so there's a possibility that the Browns could be at 11 if the Chiefs win. So that's a big drop from number 7 last week for Cleveland. So Shannon, do you see the landscape changing with this injury, and do you see it benefiting the Steelers?
I've said now for weeks that injuries is going to decide the playoff field. It happened last year. It happens every year. Last year, the Steelers were looking like they were going to have a solid footing for the playoffs. Bud Dupree goes down. They never recovered on the defensive side of the ball. I hate it so badly for Derrick Henry. He's had a stretch of games that you can't compare to anybody other than Jim Brown in his prime. Like AB's stretch of games there, about 5 seasons worth with men and the Steelers was just, on a record-breaking pace. That's what Henry's been doing. And Henry was MVP up to this point. So that's a huge loss for the Titans. They've still got a quality team. They're well coached. They're going to still be in the playoff race. But that if they were a Super Bowl contender, I don't feel like that that they're still the number 1 seed in the AFC. Let's put it that way. But it's the where they're at right now is it could benefit the Steelers in that you're nowhere near as afraid or concerned about playing the Titans without Derrick Henry as you are with him.
I'm not supposed to have favorite players, but Derrick Henry is one of my favorite non-Steelers. Absolutely love watching him play. I love everything about this guy. He is my favorite running back that does not wear black and gold. And, he's my second favorite 22 because I am a huge fan of Najee Harris, of course, and they're both coming from Alabama. But, I have another favorite. I love Cooper Kupp. And every week when I have to draft my daily fantasy team every week, and I'm actually leading in the standings, Jeff and Dave. Just thought I'd tell you that. But I pay a lot of money for Cooper Kupp, and I will say that it seems like Derrick Henry is a lot of money every week in daily fantasy. Guess who is the 3rd most expensive running back right now? And it's Najee Harris.
That's great to see.
So it is absolutely awesome to see. I said it. Najee Harris would be Rookie of the Year if it wasn't for Jamar Chase.
Right.
And if he finishes 2nd, I would not be disappointed because of what Chase is doing right now. but Najee would be the front runner if it wasn't for what's going on.
How about that?
Number one up in Cincy.
How about that touchdown dive? Yeah, I mean that was like Michael Jordan from the foul line. That was incredible.
I'm glad you said that, Tony. That was awesome. I think the Steelers. I mean, week after week, people were saying, "All right, I'm glad with that draft pick," because somebody put on Twitter or in our Slack channel, if you draft a tackle, you're not winning any of those games the last 3 weeks.
Right.
Or the last 3 games, excuse me. So, it's really exciting what's happening in Pittsburgh. My last question to you, as we get ready to go, I'm going to ask both of you this. Is this team better than last year's team, Shannon?
I believe wholeheartedly. In my stock report article that's coming out tomorrow, I talked about this. Last year's team was older, with a deteriorating offensive line. They were undefeated 11-0, but they weren't improving this week. They were actually going in the opposite direction, especially after a couple of injuries. This year, we said we preach patience. It's going to take time. It's a process. They start out 1-3, but they're taking steady steps of improvement and growth each week. They're trending in the right direction. There's a ton of talent on this team. It just takes experience to fully get the confidence and the necessary to be what's coming. But they're definitely trending in the right direction. So in my opinion, this team at this point this year, I'm more excited than I was about the team last year at the same point.
Tony, what are your thoughts?
Well, it was about a year ago at this time, speaking of the Titans in that Tennessee game, where they kind of started to regress, and they were never quite the same from the midpoint of the season on. They kept winning up until December, but they were never quite the same after that. And I think this team, as Shannon said, is trending in the right direction, and it started with the Denver game. And I think they're better equipped than they were last year, because I think they have a different offensive philosophy, and they have a bunch of young guys on offense who are getting better each and every week, especially on the offensive line. And you throw in a top-notch running back, and as you said, possibly a number 1 tight end now, and a quarterback who seems to be getting more and more comfortable, a veteran quarterback who's getting more and more comfortable with this offense. And you saw it yesterday. The execution wasn't always there, but you were encouraged by the game plan and the design. So, and the defense is the defense. They have some injuries, especially on the defensive line. But as we said earlier in the show, they have some guys like Wormley starting to step up, and Mondo, and now Taco. So, he's a linebacker, but the defense is going to be stout all year round. And if this offense continues to improve, I think they might be better by the end of the year than they ever were last year.
Great points, fellas. It's been a fantastic show. I am still walking on sunshine. I'm walking on air. I'm not walking on broken glass. I feel absolutely amazing this week. So with that being said, thanks, everybody. We cannot do these shows without you, and we're going to get ready to sign off here. Now, I'd love to say that we'd see you next week, but we are not going to be here Monday night, because the Steelers are going to get ready to play the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football. Stay tuned here to BTSC on the website and on here. We will let you know exactly what we'll be doing. You will most likely see Tony, Shannon, and I on Tuesday night. Wow. But what happens with the Scobro show? There's going to be a Scobro show next week. We are going to keep you posted on what's going to happen with that as well. You might be double dipping on Tuesday. You might have a special edition of the Scobro show. We are figuring that out as we speak, as I'm messaging with Dave back and forth. Also, we're going to have a post-game show on Monday night next week, so you will have some of us. It might be a different lineup. I'm pretty sure Dave will be there as well. Jeff will not be on there. I might be a game time decision, but you will have some of the best analysts here from BTSC which we're all pretty good. If you ask me, I'm proud of each and every one of these guys. So we will let you know what's happening. It is a work in progress. If I was doing my job correctly, I would have had it before we started this show. So with that being said, thanks so much. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much, Tony. Just when you think you got all the answers,
we keep changing the questions.
Oh, I love it. All right. We will talk to you soon. Bye now.